Hello, folks. Welcome to the Crisis Corner. We're back in what are we going to call this? We're going to put this in the Manga Corner for the time being. All right. So, in the house of the Crisis Corner, there's many abodes. This one happens to be the Manga Corner. And we're here today with a One Piece, I guess you say, a speculation. No, this is more of a discussion.
Okay.
There's a One Piece discussion.
That sounds right.
We'll get to speculation later. But it's my man Dave. They say, hey, Dave.
Hey.
Yeah, co-creator of C3 Comics. We're discussing what I would say is the ramifications of Jimbei's entry to the crew on what is known as the Monster Trio. Okay? So first, definition of terms. What would you say the Monster Trio is?
I would say the Monster Trio, in my mind, are the three strongest fighters in the Mugiwara. So, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are the Monster Trio, or how I would have defined it prior to Jimbei. Yes.
Fair. And note that, as with many things with the Straw Hats, this is an unofficial title.
Yes.
None of them claim to, at no time in the series did they ever claim to be officially a Monster Trio or any pecking order whatsoever among the Straw Hats, which makes them unique, which makes them extremely unique, especially amongst the higher order of pirate crews. Once you get to your Yonkos, you got Sweet Commanders, so-and-so, Calamities. There's a hierarchy at the top. There's a structure.
Okay.
When we get to the Straw Hats, there is, aside from Luffy being captain, there is no definitive pecking order.
I mean,
official.
Yes, there's no official pecking order, but you see things happen that make it clear that there is, in fact, something that resembles a pecking order of some sorts for the Mugiwara.
Okay.
But I'm with you.
Right. I call it a functional. I call it a functional pecking order.
Okay.
And I will go back to Shabandi Archipelago.
Okay.
When they were on the run from the forces of who was after them? Admiral, who was it?
Kizaru.
Kizaru was there, and blah blah blah. They was on the run from the pacifista or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was decided among the three of them, we're going to split up, but not us three together. The concept being, I believe, in Luffy's mind, was that each one of you is accountable for two people. Now, and if you say you're accountable for that person, I'm saying basically you're stronger than that person. Look out for them. So we're splitting up for this reason.
Okay.
Three of us are going to go in three different directions, take two people with you and go. So in that instance right there, I say that's the functional Monster Trio, the three strongest cats who can look after another person or a set of people.
Well, yeah, so if you're saying what purpose do they serve, because like you said, the Mugiwara, the Straw Hats are exceptionally complicated when you get into like a pecking order for real. And I don't want to say in a lot of ways Sanji gums up the works, because unofficially, Zoro is the vice captain, the first mate, however you want to, qualify it. Essentially, when Luffy's not there, he's in charge. So it's just how it works. But you get into complications with the group, and I don't want to deviate too far, because Nami gums up the works in a lot of ways. Because in some ways she serves as the quartermaster for the Straw Hats. So in some ways she got a lot of sway and so forth. So yes, when you're talking about straight up combat and fighting and busting somebody's butt, the Monster Trio, that's their role. And Monster Trio being Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji.
Okay. Now you inject Jimbei into the mix, because he's officially joined as of Wano. He is their helmsman.
Yes.
He also happens to be former Shichibukai.
Yes.
A feared Bama. He was a captain on his own right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's an interesting fit.
Yes.
So what does that do to that unofficial designation?
So for me, the problem that I have, and I'm gonna tell you first and foremost, the issue that we come in is you get pre-time skip Mugiwara versus post-time skip Mugiwara, and how power scaling works amongst the team. And I can tell you first, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you, I think Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji were a lot closer power-wise pre-time skip.
Mm-hmm.
So post-time skip, and I'm going to tell you, and I know a lot of people don't want to get into this. I'll tell you, your man Oda is a master of the shell game. I think he gets off on trolling the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that meaning the shell game, meaning that he wants people, he doesn't want your attention to be on something that in my mind is inconsequential, which would be the Zoro versus Luffy debate. He doesn't want you focused on that in any way, shape, or form, which is, if you were being upfront and honest and fair, it would be, but it's inconsequential because at the end of the day, this is Luffy's story. So while I don't necessarily believe, and I don't want to start, the inflammatory stuff, but I don't necessarily believe it. Going into this, into Wano, Luffy was stronger than Zoro, but he wants you focused on nonsensical stuff, which is the Zoro versus Sanji debate. And I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I think they were a lot closer strength wise pre time skip. Post time skip, there seems to be a large gap.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, Jimbei coming into the crew poses a problem because, as you know, I love Sanji an awful lot, one of
Mm-hmm.
my absolute favorite characters, and it makes it so his place in the monster trio isn't quite as secure.
Mm-hmm.
So Jimbei's a problem for me.
Mm, again, like I say, if you're when you go down to defining terms, that's one thing. If you're saying straight pecking order, strength wise, I think absent of an extraordinary feat, it would seem you're going Luffy, Zoro, Jinbei, Sanji. It would appear. Now, Sanji will overtake Jinbei because I think Jinbei is as strong as he's going to be. I don't see him, coming up, you know, with a new, I ain't gonna say jutsu, but coming up with a new attack or a new whatever. He's not going to get, he is what he is right now. If he gets any stronger than he is right now, I'd be shocked. Uh, Sanji hasn't hit his ceiling yet. So eventually he's going to overtake Jimbei. But so in a straight power hierarchy, you're talking Luffy, Zoro, Jimbei, Sanji. Now, in terms of their the crew itself, they're always going to look Luffy, Zoro, Sanji. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I say, it's hard to define because, like I say, the crew is not. There's no hierarchy in the crew aside from captain, and they treat themselves. It's like a round table type situation. No, everyone is not equal, but everyone is of equal importance to a sense. Nobody tries to claim. Well, except for I guess you say, except for Sanji and Zoro, nobody really wants to claim that they're stronger than the other. You know what I'm saying? But it's obvious
Well,
in most cases.
I mean,
You know
sort
what I'm
of to a
saying?
certain extent, to me that relationship is really complicated. And like I said, I do think it's part of Oda trolling the community at large, and I also think it's part of a shell game. But there are aspects of even in that relationship when stuff gets serious, like, and I think it's often forgotten, like that bit when Usopp leaves the crew,
Mm-hmm.
when that whole exchange goes down, and Sanji, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Sanji hits Zoro with, essentially, what were you doing when, Usopp was getting bust up by, the Frankie family,
Mm-hmm.
and Zoro responds, well, I was protecting the ship. What were you doing? And that man, in my mind, and people may take things differently, Sanji essentially hits him with, I was doing my job. So to my mind, the implication being you weren't doing your job. So for Sanji, Zoro's job is you are the combatant of the Mugiwara Pirates. When it comes to your job is to bust people up. My job is to prepare meals. So, and not to say whatever, because I know people want to, they give Sanji a hard time, but he's the cook on the crew, and the idea to me is he will acknowledge that Zoro, that's your job, is to beat people up. That's your job when it comes down to it. So I know, to me, even though they have that combative relationship, I don't necessarily feel like he slots into that spot to really truly think, yeah, I could take Zoro, or I'm on par with Zoro for real.
True.
Because when they fought like Oars Jr.,
yeah,
for them, they line up. So Luffy's doing what Luffy's, caught up with whatever, and the idea is we're going to support Zoro. So everybody slots up in that battle with Oars Jr. We're going to be Zoro's support. So I feel like, not necessarily, I mean, Sanji, he pop off at the mouth, but I just, I've never got the impression that, he was uber serious about whatever. But
ultimately, I think what it does is it gives Luffy a third commander. Because if you think about it, like you're saying, with Oars, Luffy was down from fighting what? No, what was he doing at the time? Before, I mean, he was initially. Initially, he joined in late, or was he there the whole?
Yeah, it was some nonsense. He got psyched out where he was off camera and more. He was collecting shadows. He come back.
Right.
Yeah. It was a whole bunch of nonsense going on in that fight. But yeah.
So Zoro stepped up and did what he had to do. When you think he's the only instance where he actually asked one of them to do something in his stead was Sanji. In Dressrosa, when he asked him to take the crew, you can go ahead and fight Big Mom, get away from them, and then go to Zo.
Zo.
But he gave him command of the ship directly, told him to do something. And he was effectively the captain of that ship until they got to wherever, and until Luffy caught up with him. He never actually had to ask Zoro to do anything because he was usually there. Or if he went down, Zoro just stepped up and did what was necessary.
Yeah.
People followed behind him because that's what you do.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this too. Another thing that I found, and I don't want to be reading, the term Ibo, partner.
Partner, yeah.
Essentially, and there's a chapter very recently, in which Kid calls Killer. So it's just about partners. And whatever, and that's a very Zoro-centric chapter, so I just want to say, in my mind, it just seemed, apropos that, no, Zoro's never been asked, but I don't know that he needs to be asked.
No. It's understood.
Yeah.
And I would argue actually on the way out of when they were when it was going life and death in Whole Cake Island, and he was fighting Katakuri. Jimbei was captain at that point, essentially.
I mean, I don't know. See, at that point, I would actually agree with your assessment in terms of the way they looked, because it seemed to me that if Sanji spoke, Jimbei was obeying those orders. So I don't know that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if
he got there until Sanji, because he wasn't there for a good amount of time.
I mean, but yeah, when Sanji showed up, I felt like Sanji was in command.
To the extent that he had to be. I mean, once he finished with his magnificent piloting feats,
which were amazing.
He showed that he has a place.
Yeah.
It definitely defined his place in the crew. But at that point, everything was pretty much down to, I don't know how many orders were actually having to be given. But yeah, I would say if Sanji and Jimbei are on the ship at the same time, I got Sanji
being in command.
The crew would most likely. And again, it's funny with them because they don't have a function. Now they have a functional hierarchy, but they don't have an
official one.
An official hierarchy.
Yeah.
They fall into line. They do what they have to do, and they know amongst themselves what's going on, and we can observe that. What I mean? So I think ultimately with Jimbei joining the ranks, that just gives him another dude that, because the crew's gonna grow, and going into out of Wano, they're gonna pick up at least one more person. I happen to think they're gonna pick up maybe more, but
I do too, actually.
yeah,
You know, it's yeah,
this basically gives
conversation
him.
for another time. But yeah.
That basically gives him a third division commander, or whatever you want to call it, or third. Although they'll never take those actual monikers or whatever, that gives him a third commander. Now, does that pull him out of that designation and say, "Nah, I'm captain, and y'all deal with that monster trio bit"? I mean, it almost gets retired to a point, but
Well, see, for me, and this is where I think I'm gonna say that in my mind, and if we go back to again another chapter, that chapter where we're getting the Yonko's bounties and so forth.
mm-hmm.
I'm under the impression that every Yonko crew's not the same. So I think you get the impression that Kaido, the Beast Pirates, and the Big Mom Pirates are huge, massive crews.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I think the red hair pirates fit that particular mold. And when they were giving out the bounties and so forth, and they were revealing the bounties, they indicated that essentially the crew that has the closest in bounties. So it made me feel like the power level of the members were a lot closer is the red hair pirates. And I believe the Mugiwara they fit that model. Whereas this is a small crew. So I don't necessarily know that I feel like because there's a big gap between Big Mom and Katakuri. And there's a big gap, as far as I can tell, between Kaido and his commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say whatever. And you can get into Queen is a Zoan type, so his durability, whatever. But when Big Mom, amnesiac, amnesiac, Big Mom, lit into Queen, she put that baba down. And you could, so in my mind, it fits into the idea that essentially Luffy is commander level at this point in time, and Big Mom essentially one-shotted Queen. Put that baba down, got the white eyes. Now he came to rather quickly because they're resilient, but I'm under the impression there's a large gap between Kaido and his commanders, Big Mom and her commanders, and I don't necessarily believe that there's quite as large a gap between Shanks and Beckman. I think Beckman probably has a little bit more go, and I think that you need that for these smaller crews, because if you're combating these larger crews in a straight up fight, your team just needs to be able to put in work. So I'm also under the impression that I know you and I have had this conversation before. I'm going to say, in all honesty, because this whole time skip thing, if you think of it, everybody was going to college. So Luffy went to college, Zoro went to college, Sanji went to college. Sanji went to college, and he majored in cooking, and he minored in his blackleg techniques. Because quite frankly, Ivankov isn't a blackleg master, and he wasn't increasing Sanji's skill in that regard. Sanji had to work on it on his own. Now, he taught this man how to cook up some extra special dishes that helped, with a lot of things, but he majored in cooking. So I think post time skip, you see that. Zoro went to college. He mastered in Kenjutsu. He studied under a Kenjutsu professor, and it comes through. So his teacher, I think, was most geared to what Zoro was. Luffy went to college, and in my opinion, Luffy comes out with a general studies degree. This is the guy who, you can't learn pirate kinging from the guy who was the pirate king. So, not to say, because Luffy benefits, and I actually believe that you post time skip, Luffy's still in college. He's still growing. So you see that in his fights with Doflamingo, with Cracker, truly, and Katakuri. Luffy develops who he is, and he becomes closer to what he's going to be. So I honestly felt like coming through the time skip, Zoro was stronger than Luffy. I actually believe, I still one of those people who believe that there's something going on with that eye still. I haven't given up, all that eye is just closed, whatever. I think it's something to it.
You can come out with a dojutsu, right?
And I know, people gonna watch this and they'll be like, well, why didn't he bust Doflamingo's ass and Dressrosa? And I'm just gonna tell you, to my mind, and I can tell you that through the post time skip, Zoro says one time essentially that the one requirement I had, otherwise my captain would have had to step down, is he needs to have conqueror's haki. So
Mm,
that's the one requirement I have. And I can tell you, Zoro being who he is, he's in the tank for Luffy being the Pirate King. You
mm-hmm,
can't be Pirate King if I'm carrying you on my back. So
mm.
if they went down in Dressrosa, they would have gone down in Dressrosa. I don't care what Zoro had in his tank to do. It's Luffy's job to do whatever, and he's in the tank for Luffy. Luffy has to master these things. I believe that wholeheartedly. So if anybody's saying, well, why would he just, what, that in my mind is Zoro being Zoro. But I honestly believe that going into Wano, which I think this is going to be that big watershed arc, that arc that cements. This is the Enix lobby to me of post time skip. This is when they grow as characters, they develop, they get powerful, they get whatever. And this is the arc in my mind that Luffy's going to surpass Zoro and become the most powerful member of the crew. I honestly believe that for this particular arc. So I think that they're a lot closer in terms of power scaling than a lot of people give them credit. So I think that the Monster Trio still exists. I still think it's still a concept in which Luffy's a part of that group. And my
Right.
problem comes in because I don't know that Sanji holds on to his spot. And I believe Zoro and Sanji are meant to be the right hand and the left hand of the Pirate King.
Okay, but let me ask this: with Reisu, the Sanji Trump Jimbei,
Yes, I think with Raid Suit.
but without no.
No, and that's well. I'm gonna tell you this is because we already got that video here about the raid suits, the worst thing in the world. Because
Not a
whatever,
fan of the Reisu, but whatever.
I'm not a fan of the raid suit, man. It makes me so mad because Sanji was a badass unto himself going into this. So I don't want to get. I'm about to go into the raid suit. I'm about to get on my soapbox, but
No,
like
we run out of time, so just keep going. Keep going.
I feel like that raid suit is a problem for me simply because Sanji was magnificent for being Sanji. Like and people can give him a hard time in Whole Cake Island, and I do feel like he should have got a nice little one-on-one fight. I'll go to my grave saying that nice little one-on-one fight would have served him well because he needs a W. But real talk, they can say Jimbei pushed Big Mom back. He hit her with the judo flip, whatever, and technically he did throw her down on the ground. But I'm gonna tell you, Sanji put her on her back with his cooking. And I'm gonna tell you, people sleep with sleep on this as much as they want to.
This
But Sanji dropped Big Mom. Just remember, that should
okay.
be the
That's
title
true.
of
That's
this
true.
joint. The
That's true.
Monster Trio. Sanji did drop Big Mom. I don't care what anybody it is. Sanji
And
dropped her.
look, and look, and to my mind, going back to the college analogy,
Yeah,
I got to give Sanji a little bit of more props because yes, he did major in cooking, but he developed two forms of hockey too.
he did. He
You know what I'm
did.
saying? And I don't
I
know if
mean,
Ivanka taught him that because I ain't never
I'm,
seen it. I ain't never seen him, whatever he is, use hockey, but I assume he can. Obviously,
I
I don't
think
know
so
if his
too.
observation is that tight because my man was ducking Kyler Curry's attack.
I mean, like I'm trying to tell you,
We ain't seen the best of Sanji though. You know what I mean? Ah, you froze up.
and it's a problem for me.
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm back.
No, you good. You good.
Oh, oh man, I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So we might have to whatever. But what I was saying is, Sanji's a monster, and the tools are there, and the idea that somehow or another, he needs a raid suit to be a beast is a problem for me, and I hate it
It
so
kind of mucked
much.
up the waters. That's all I'm saying. It's not causing the question exactly where he is. To me, with Raid Suit, I got him trumping
Jimbei.
Jimbei. Without, I got him at least close to even. In
You
my
got him close
mind,
to even with Jimbei?
yeah. I don't. Could he outfight him flat out? Is Fishman Karate better than Blackleg? I don't
I
know.
mean, I think that when you get into stuff like that, I think there are other things that you really have to look at when you start. So when it comes to these fights, I mean, I think speed is important, but what the post time skip teaches us is armament hockey is really, really integral to whatever you're going to do. And just off post time skip, it seemed to me it depends on where you gauge Virgo in your power scaling. That Virgo versus Sanji, you know, Virgo fractured that man's leg. I mean, you can't, and the idea is when you stack Jimbei up against Virgo, who comes out of that fight?
Virgo and Jimbei.
Virgo and Jimbei. I got Jimbei whipping that man.
I got him. I got Jimbei. I don't know exactly how many feats or whatever I got. They can back that up, but I got Jimbei with.
I mean, Jimbei took a blow from Akainu. Right. He struck. I mean, I'm not saying he dealt damage to Big Mom, but he struck Big Mom, and he was able to push her. He was able to catch her up in his Fishman Karate. And I don't know that I got Virgo being able, the only member of the Doflamingo Pirates that I have been able to really do anything to Big Mom is Doflamingo. So I really just, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get into too much because I think Big Mom is, undervalued in some ways, but I really think she's a monster of a character. So I think beat-wise, that means something in regards to Jimbei. And I feel like right now, he's stronger than Sanji. And I don't like it. I don't like it.
So to cap it off, essentially, Jimbei cuts into the power pecking order.
He does.
He cuts in above Sanji, unless he got the raise suit on.
That's how I read it, and I don't like it.
But functionally, Sanji is still holding down the 3 spot.
Functionally, I will concede the point, and I would even say functionally in my mind, Nami, he shares that number 3 spot with Nami. I will tell you off the break. I think that Jimbei still, at most, he come in at 5. It's real.
Now we got Nami in the monster trio.
No, not in the. So see again, because the monster trio serves a particular role. But I can tell you, when Sanji wasn't on that ship, and Luffy was barking orders, that was Nami telling people, break all these damn mirrors. It's the captain's order. Do what you got to do. Nami barks orders hardcore all the time.
That's what I like about their crew. Is they do what they have to do, and there's no ego in it. That's what I love the Straw Hats. There ain't no ego in it. If Nami's saying, furl the sail, blah blah blah, whatever, because she navigator, cats just do it.
They do it.
And if Jimbei is saying whatever, I'm steering, you do this, whatever, they do it. I mean, and Luffy don't. He just doing this captain thing. But if he has to call out an order, he'll bark it out and they'll do what he says.
Yeah.
They might complain. They might say that's whatever, but they'll do what he say.
Yeah, I mean? They do. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I do like that too, because they make it clear when they disagree with their captain, the stuff that come out his mouth. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, we wrap that up then. I mean, do we have a definitive? Definitively, I would say the monster trio is still intact.
All right.
I would say. At least.
You don't want to call it a quartet? You're not at that point where you're ready to say.
At this point, I would almost say pull Luffy out of it and let.
I don't know that. So you feel like he's that far ahead of?
No, I mean, but I'm saying, like I say, it gives him more flexibility. You know what I'm saying? It's Jimbei being in the crew gives him more flexibility to do whatever he has to do and know that he got at least one more dude covering the crew. You know what I'm saying? It makes the crew a little bit more, like I say, top heavy, but it just adds, it makes his job easier.
I mean, I can see that. It balances out. I mean, because I guess until you add that next member, you can actually see that there are, I guess, tiers to, the top tier being, I guess, Zoro, Jimbei, Sanji, mid tier being Frankie, Brook, and Robin, and then the lower tier being Usopp, Nami, and Chopper. If you want to break it down that way, I guess technically you could do that at this point until you add another member in which you gotta slot them in somewhere, and I guess. That's another video.
That's another video.
That's another video. Yeah.
All right. So that's basically our impressions on the impact of Jimbei joining the monster trio. Next, we're gonna get into who else is coming out of this Wano situation. Who else is gonna be on the crew? Who potentially could be on the crew? Because I'm playing contrarian. I'm gonna throw a whole lot of stuff out there. I'm gonna tell you right now. What you think you know, don't worry about what you think you know. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be all backwards. But until then, thanks for checking out the video. Let me know your comments, blah, blah, blah. Subscribe, like, whatever. And we'll get back at you later. Stay loose.